Hello my Funatics and welcome to week 3 of the GBA. This week I'm going up against Miguel, a good friend of mine, coach of the RealMarill. You should all know him. He's been around for quite a while now, always does great content, so check out his channel in the description below. And you can see my team. I've done a team builder. I've gone a bit different this week. It's a bit more offensive. Not that you'd necessarily be able to tell by looking at the team because Suicune there, Muse there, both can perform quite defensive utility roles. So yeah, this is going to be a more offensive team, and I'm hoping that with this I can play a bit better and it suits me a bit more. Looking at the team Miguel brought, it's not really exactly what I thought he would bring. There are a few things I'm pleased not to see. Talonflame isn't there, although it is very scary. I had prepped for that quite well, so I mean it doesn't make much difference. Roserade isn't there, which is good because he can't hazard stack me, which would have been an issue. I didn't bring Defog. Spikes would have hurt things, and Mew really didn't want toxic spikes because it's a sub-calm mind Mew, so I want to avoid status if possible. And then other than that, like stuff like Uxie might have come, I thought. Maybe like a Kolber Uxie, because that's actually a more secure way of getting up his rocks, I thought, but he chose not to bring that. The weird things about this were that he brought a Primeape that I really wasn't expecting at all. I really didn't think that was coming. And yeah, it just caught me by a bit of surprise. Zeb Striker also means that Electros won't have as free a time Volt switching around, because I didn't actually think he would bring either of his electric immunities, but it does make sense to bring one because Blastoise does really appreciate that support. So yeah, that's interesting. But what is the most annoying thing, and the thing that threw me and made me really quite scared, was that because I thought that Uxie was coming, because I thought that Roserade was coming, these were things that definitely Dragonite could set up on more. Now, Miguel has only really given me one option to set up on, which is Registeel. And that's going to be quite tough, because the rest of the team, like Zebstriker's most likely, or is very likely to have HP Ice. His Blastoise can have Ice Beam. Obviously, Weavile can have Ice Coverage. Primeape gets Ice Punch. And then Gothitelle, don't really know what it has. It could just be Powerful Specs, or it could have HP Ice, or I think it gets Dazzling Gleam. Maybe it doesn't. I could well be wrong about that. But anyway, yeah, Dragonite really doesn't have too many options, and this is going to be really, really hard for me to get my sweep going, or to get anything going. Weavile is a big problem, and I know that my best way to deal with it is with Extreme Speed Dragonite, but I just don't know if I'll be able to get the +1 I need to take it out after rocks. So this is going to be really quite hard, a lot harder than I was hoping. I hope that he'd bring it a bit more of a balanced team than this. This is kind of erring on the side of offensive with defensive options. So yeah, anyway, we'll just get into it. I'm going to lead with Crook. That was my plan initially because I just really want my rocks. They're so crucial. Even though he hasn't got Talonflame, they're still very crucial because I need that damage on Weavile. It's such a big threat to my team. And also, rocks pressure Blastoise to come into spin, and I need him damaged. Going into this, for Dragonite to stand any chance at sweeping, I need Weavile to take a rocks hit. I need Blastoise to be heavily weakened. I'm kind of expecting a defensive Blastoise, so I need it to be heavily weakened. And I also need Registeel to be weakened and a potential Shuckerberry to be popped, so I need to hit it with a ground move before Dragonite can sweep. So that's quite a lot to do, and only Registeel to set up on. So anyways, let's get on and see how well I do. I'm going to lead with Crook, trying to get my rocks. Miguel actually predicts that really nicely. He's going to lead with Primeape, and I did kind of just have a mental blank on that first turn, picking my Mon. He does have Defiant, Sam, you idiot! Right now, there's not too much stopping him just from going for a close combat, but I thought that it was quite likely that he would go for a U-turn because that still does massive damage to my Crocodile. He might not want to risk me being Sash or Chople, and if I bring in my Mew to resist a close combat, it's still super effective damage. So that's what he does, and the scary thing now is he could just U-turn into Weavile. So looking at that damage, because he's +1, that would have done more if he was banded or anything like that. It looks like he's not banded. Could be Scarf, or it could be like a subset or something interesting like that. Anyway, Weavile does come in. I'm slightly concerned that I might be Pursuit trapped straight away, and that would be incredible play by Miguel, and just really kind of poor prep. not envisaging that scenario occurring right there on my behalf. But he doesn't pursue. He's just going to go straight for a knockoff. That's kind of alright with me, apart from, if you look at this damage, that's ridiculous because it's a critical hit. It's also unfortunate because he sees that he's knocked off the assault vest, which gives him a lot of information about what kind of a Suicune I am. Nevertheless, he does just go straight into his Gothitelle, and I am going to predict that because I know that Gothitelle, the only thing that Gothitelle wanted to come in on right now is Suicune, because I didn't bring Klefki. I get the special defense drop, which is great because it means that I would potentially be able to OHKO it with one more, and I'm probably going to outspeed because I've got a little bit of speed investment on there. He'd have to be heavily speed invested. It looks bulky because of the damage it took. It should have taken more than that if it was just offensive. Anyway, Zebstrika opts to come in. It takes a really nice amount of damage from an unstabbed Shadow Ball, which I'm quite happy with. I'm going to go into my Squirmy Worm, the Eelektross. I know that I can tank anything that it would want to go for, and then I can get some momentum of my own with a slow Volt Switch. Here we see that Registeel is going to come in. It will want to set up rocks. I'm going to Volt Switch just to get some damage on. I may as well, and also I can see if it wanted to maybe go for a Trixie T-Wave predicting a switch or something like that. He didn't really have any reason to. Rocks was just the play to do there. So I actually get a really nice chunk on that Registeel. It looks to be defensive over specially defensive, I think. I'm going to go into Crook, and I'm going to go for rocks because I just really want my rocks, and I'm not going to get too many opportunities to set them up. So we'll do that right now. As we see, Registeel is staying in, and it goes for the very cheeky counter. There wasn't really any way that I was going to go for an Earthquake right there, but I'm going to switch out right here. I don't... Obviously, I think the Shuca Berry is super duper obvious, so I'm not going to stay in and go for that. I'm going to go into my Suicune, because it can't counter my Suicune, and with burns and stuff, I can potentially beat this Registeel, depending on what coverage it has. Going to go for a Scold, because it hits a lot of the switch-ins quite well. It doesn't really do much damage at all. That's alright. I don't burn, and that's probably a good thing, because I don't want this Registeel going down too soon. He does get the T-Wave on my Suicune. Basically, at this range of health and being paralysed, I'm not too good for very much right now. Blastoise comes in, and I'm really hoping for the burn, because if I can get some residual damage on this Blastoise, it's not going to last long, and I will be able to keep my rocks. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Bit of a shame. Without my AV, I'm not going to be able to take any hits, so I can't really stay in and try for the Mirror Coat. So I'm going to go into my Squirmy Worm. It can take hits from this Blastoise. Maybe not a Hydro. Maybe 2 Hydros would have taken me out from there. But he has to hit 2 Hydros if he's doing that, so that's alright. I can deal with that. He is going to go for the spin. I thought that was the most likely play. And right now I'm going to go for the Volt Switch because his Zebstrika's taken damage, and I don't think that it can really risk coming in. But he does actually make that risky play. I don't know... I think that was fair enough. Like, he gets the special attack raise, and I do go for the Volt Switch. I avoid an overheat there, but it really isn't too crucial, I don't think. Looking at this damage, I take him right down to where he will die to another Rock Switch, and I don't foresee Miguel really wanting to switch that out. And at -1, another overheat wouldn't... The damage he'd have got from another overheat really wouldn't have done anything. So I am able to take out Zebstrika with Eelektross still being alive, which is something. It won't be able to take hits really, but it's alive. Weavile comes in, not something I like to see, and I would rather sack Suicune than this, but if he goes for a Swords Dance on the switch, that actually could just be game, so I can't really let that happen. I stay in, go for a Flamethrower, just in case he wanted to try and set up a Swords Dance. He might be a Sash set for that reason, so yeah, but anyway, he just takes me out with a knockoff. It means that I can go into Crook. This is interesting. Icicle Crash, he's either locked into knockoff with Choice Band, or Icicle Crash is not going to KO me because he's not Life Orb, and I get the Intimidate off. So I can go into this and go for an Earthquake. I can kind of bluff the Scarf, because I've only gone for Rock so far and switched out straight after. He goes into his Gothitelle, which dies to a crit. Don't think that crit mattered too much. If it was able to take the hit, then I was going to outspeed and KO it the next turn anyway. He gets a switch into Primeape, he's going to go for a close combat, and at this stage is when I want to sack my Suicune. So I'm making some sacks right now, it's not great. I still have a lot of work to do to get my Dragonite sweep. I need my rocks to be back up because I still need that Weavile to take the damage. I need to pop the Shuca Berry on the Registeel and damage it more, and I definitely need more damage on the Blastoise. So we'll see what we can do right now. I'm going to go into Mew because it's looking like he's probably Scarfed. And I'm going to go for... if he's not Scarf, I outspeed him as well because I'm EV to outspeed him. So I'm going to go for a substitute here. Maybe not the optimal play. I potentially could have gone straight for a signal beam and kept Mew a bit healthier. But actually, this kind of works out. This kind of works out in the long run. You'll see why. What I mean by that. I'm able to get some more damage on this Blastoise. Looking at that, it's definitely more defensive than specially defensive or anything like that. So that's alright. And what I'm going to do here, I want to preserve Mew because it's actually quite fast. It can maybe do some things. So I'm going to preserve it. I'm going to switch into my Kyurem that actually isn't doing too much at this stage. His offensive mons can probably take me out. A low kick from Weavile Oko's Kyurem. So his offensive mons can really take me out. All I needed to do is get some a hit off, maybe on Registeel to dent it a bit more, or maybe on this thing to dent it a bit more. Miguel predicts that and goes for the Dragon Pulse, which I was kind of scared about, but because of its almighty HP stat, and because that Blastoise is defensive and not offensive, I'm able to live the Dragon Pulse, which is fantastic, and I can go for my Earth Power, and we see here that we do pop the Sugar Berry, so that's a tick on the tick list. We're getting to the end game, and I really, really need to set up my Dragonite to stand any chance. So now is a series of plays that I need to make to try and make this happen. I'm going to go into Crocodile. Fool of a Crook is going to set up rocks. That's what I need it to do right now. Miguel could have tried to switch out here and do some fun key things, but he does actually just stay in and go for an Iron Head. Probably wanting me to take the Registeel out with an Earthquake so he could get a free switch into one of his offensive threats. I really can't let that happen. Registeel is the only thing I can set up on, so I'm going to go into Mew. And I know that I'm sacking the Mew at this stage, and this is where actually losing the HP is a good thing, because Mew can go down, and now I can bring in my Dragonite. This is the situation that I needed to engineer. There are still potential obstacles though, but I can go safely for a Dragon Dance. We've seen the T-Wave. I think he's probably going to go for it. He can't touch me with anything. He doesn't have the Ice Punch. He's got Iron Head. So the T-Wave comes out. I do have the Lumberry. That's absolutely fine. I can't really go for another Dragon Dance because obviously he can T-Wave me the following turn. So I do have to take the Registeel out right now. And so that's what happens. And I've got a +1 Dragonite. This could potentially be happening right now. The Dragonite sweep could be clutch. The issue is the Primeape. I need to go for a +1 extreme speed. I stand a chance at killing it, but it's kind of not in my favour. So can I do it? No. I can't do it. And he's going to go for the Ice Punch. It was obviously a Scarf Primeape, so I couldn't have gone for a Dragon Claw there. And so, unfortunately, my only hope at winning goes down the drain like that on a roll of the dice, because he was in range of extreme speed if I got a high roll. I didn't get the high roll. It doesn't look like it with that damage. I think I must have got min damage on the extreme speed because he's actually still got a chunk left. And because of Defiant, he's able to just go for another Ice Punch. If he didn't have Ice Punch, he would have had to have gone for a Stone Edge, and then I'd have got another kill with Crook. But yeah, that was unfortunate at the end there. I feel like the team and how I played it I was more comfortable with a more aggressive team, and I felt like having the pressure on was a much easier thing to deal with. I can make predictions easier, make offensive plays easier than I can with a more passive team, which was what I have been bringing. That game, I think, was my closest one yet. Even my first week against John was quite close, but this one I think was even closer, because if I had KO'd that Primeape, then I would have won, because the Blastoise would have come in on rocks and not been able to take a hit, and then Weavile was in range of an extreme speed as well if it had taken 25%. So yeah, it was a great battle. It was so good, and afterwards I didn't feel like the previous two battles. I was questioning whether I had made like fatal flaws with my draft and I wouldn't be able to do anything with it. This match makes me feel actually no, it does have potential. I can make some tweaks, I think. But yeah, I just needed a tiny bit more damage on that Primeape, and I think that I can probably achieve that. Where my prep might have let me down, I think everything did its job pretty well, apart from Mew ended up just being like a switch into Primeape, which was something that I hadn't really prepped for, and Mew really wasn't the best thing to deal with it. I could have maybe gone for a different kind of Mew set. If I'd gone for a screen set with explosion to support my Dragonite sweep, that's something that could have definitely helped. And also, a Vacuum Wave on Mew would have helped with the Weavile, which was quite scary. But in the end, I was right. Weavile wasn't the biggest threat because I had the offensive pressure and it wasn't able to come in very freely. And anything on my team would hit it very hard. So he couldn't make aggressive predictions with his Weavile either. So that was quite good. Yeah, the thing that it was just the Primeape. I wasn't ready for the Primeape, and the initial matchup with the Crook kind of set me off on a back foot. If I had maybe got some momentum from the beginning, leading with Mew definitely wasn't the right option. But maybe leading with Kyurem would have been different, and it would have meant that the Primeape may have wanted to switch out, fearing the Scarf Kyurem, or it may have just gone for. They may have gone straight for a close combat. I think it would have just been different. At least it wouldn't have given him the Intimidate boost. But I felt like that was a really close game. What I liked about it was there wasn't really much hacks, and that there was, I really don't think it was game-changing. Well done to Miguel. That was really, really interesting prep, but not what I was expecting at all. Apart from a few things. Yeah, like the Registeel I was expecting. That was probably the only set that I was expecting. He brought a bulky Gothitelle. Oh yeah, and Weavile as well. That's kind of what I was expecting, but yeah, threw me off a bit. If I had a few more options with the Dragonite setup, I think I could have done that a bit more offensively, and then maybe kept Mew as a win-con late game, because he would probably have to. Yeah, I think that would have maybe helped me if he had brought Uxie or something a bit more easy to set up on. Maybe Roserade. But I don't know. But anyway, great game. I'm still without a win, and I'm feeling really, really frustrated. I know that I can do it. Every one of my matches has been close. I'd say that I'm so close. I'm almost at the formula. This week was a really good match, and I think it's more promising than the previous weeks. It's not as demoralizing. It's just more motivating for me because I think I'm almost there, and I think the next week is going to be. I'm going to be powerful. I'm going to come out swinging. I feel much more like I felt quite worried about that aggressive style of the team, but that's actually what I need to do. And playing with it, I felt more comfortable. I felt less comfortable in the prep, but more comfortable in the playing. So I think this is the way I need to go. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've been Fufu. You've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.